are the occasions which inshallah see after a short while. So what are the occasions that we need to be harsh? So as far as the general prohibition is concerned, we see anyone, our family members, we see our friends, our nearest and dears. The first approach is must be based on softness, lightness. It must be based on benignness. We must be too much benign. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, it's mentioned in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted them with this responsibility to take this message to Fir'aun. This was the occasion now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to directly go to Fir'aun and give him an invitation to the truth. So Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Harun alayhi salam, وَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, and you speak to him, both of you, when you speak to him, speak with him softly, speak with him polite. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the man with the full wisdom, but still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, stressing upon this important thing, that you must be soft, because one of the tools of shaitan is anger. When you make a person angry, it's more closer to shaitan when a person is angry, because anger comes from the shaitan and it destabilizes a person's rational capability. He's not able to see the things in its right perspective. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding Musa alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam, avoid all sorts of possibilities which may enrage him, which may bring anger in him. Now on his part, Fir'aun, actually he has, as I said, that he had distorted all his natural disposition of accepting the truth. He has, you can say, diluted his own human nature to the extent that even he claimed to be the God. From there we can recognize how far he had taken himself. How far he had taken himself, even he claimed to be the God. And not only God, فَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, and he said, I'm your Lord, the greatest. Not only Lord, the greatest Lord. So what I mean to say is that while just practicing, prohibiting prohibiting someone committing any sin or any prohibitive thing, any forbidden thing, one must be very polite, kind, and soft, and using all his wisdom. And especially when it's a common people who don't have too much knowledge of the deen. So we must be very, very much lenient there, and presuming that they don't know its evilness, they don't know it is impermissibility. Especially if it is regarding such things whose impermissibility is not evident. As I said before, there are certain things which are evident, but there are many things which are not evident to the people. So that time we need to tell them, but in a more polite way. In that way, he diplomatically comes up to the point one wants to clarify. So when we use such phrases, uh, people are not born scholars. After all, we are the human beings. We don't have too much knowledge, but we need to understand. We must update our knowledge. When the truth comes to us, we must follow this. And these are the expressions so that we don't offend the sentiments of a person. Because by the end of the day, as I told before, and I repeat it, our objective should be that a person should leave that particular prohibition for the sake, so that he gets closer to Allah by avoiding the prohibitions. And we also get the reward in that particular thing. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides a single person through us, Prophet sallallahu ta'ala to Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, at the time of Khaybar, or at the time of Tabuk, I'm not sure. But at one occasion, Prophet sallallahu told Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu that لَأَنْ يَهْدِيَ اللَّهُ بِكَ رَجُلًا وَاحِدًا خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ حُمُرِ النَّعَمِ. O Ali, if Allah guides one single person for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides one single person for you, it is better for you than a red camel. In the Arabian society, as far as the conveyances are concerned, it was very much expensive, and it was also, we can say, a means of honor and dignity. If a person possesses a red camel, so in our terminology, it can apply to our modern day most expensive cars. But some scholars they say actually uh, the the prophetic saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it is better than a red camel for you. It means that if one person is guided to Allah through you, is sufficient for your salvation. Is enough is enough for your salvation. How uh, red camel was possessed by usually by the rich people. Rich, the one who possess enough money to spend in the cause of Allah. So when a person spends enough money in the cause of Allah, so his salvation is established. But on the other hand, a person is not having anything to spend in the way of Allah. But if he has the knowledge, if he has the capability to guide others, and when he can guide one person to the true path, and this way he will get the salvation. And it is better for him than to have the red camel. Means spending a lot of wealth in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is good, but far better is if a person is guided to the right path through you. So we should ensure each and all our capabilities. We should ensure that when we invite someone to the right path, that our intention should be sincere. Otherwise, uh, what Imam Al-Ghazali says, rahimahullah, is just burning himself to save others. So that person is quite, we can say, foolish and stupid, who burns himself to save others. First and foremost, responsibility for us is who anfusakum. In the first instance, you save yourself. Wa ahlikum, then your family. Then it is not just firstly we should try, try upon fix our own problems, then we should admonish our family. No, the process takes place simultaneously. But what is important here to understand that one should not ignore himself. A person is just working on others, trying best his top level best to ensure that others are getting closer to Allah, but he ignores himself. He ensures all the means that his family get to the right path, but he ignores himself. That's what ku anfusakum. No, besides saving your family, you have to save yourself as well. So this can be very difficult for a person, or sometimes dangerous for a person. If he's admonishing others, advising others, but he's not taking a proper way, his niyyah is not good, he's not compassionate, then this may be counterproductive. As in the case of the muhaddis, I give the example of that when his students saw him that his trousers were below the ankle, they became angry. And the approach which was adopted by the scholar, that's praiseworthy approach. That teaches us that actually we should be having the sympathy towards the mankind. I always say, uh, if you see a group of children, they are playing and then they decided to just gather some firewood. They gathered some firewood and then they set it ablaze. After they put the fire on, and then they drag a small cat or a dog, a puppy. So would any one of us allow them to do this? Not at all. Even if it is an animal, apparently of no importance, though there is importance in their own perspective, in their own place. But as compared to the human beings, they are nothing. But we won't allow it. Our compassion, our kindness even towards animals won't allow it. When we don't allow this one animal to go to the hellfire, to go to the fire, and how can we allow the many hundreds and thousands of people around us? That's why Da'i, the one who invites to the deen of Allah, is known as Da'i. Da'i must be having compassionate heart. And then also a sabr as well, patience. Because sometimes you come across with certain people, they're quite harsh. Then you must endure. They must observe the patience, because by the end of the day is a question of his life and death, is a question of his eternal bliss or everlasting damnation. So we have to be patient enough there. We see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was brutally tortured by the mushriki, by the pagans of the Arab. And what were the words Prophet sallallahu express? He would not censure them, scold them. Rather, he would say, Allah mahdi innahum la ya'lam. Oh Allah, you guide my people because they don't know. Allah would plead on their behalf to Allah. Otherwise, Allah would have sent his punishment to them because they are doing injustice to his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Prophet is pleading on their behalf to Allah. Allah mahdi qawmi fa innahum la ya'lam. Oh Allah, guide my people fa innahum la ya'lam, as they don't have the knowledge. They don't know what they are doing. So it's important for a da'i to analyze all the situation. He must be quite capable enough to assess the situation, to assess the temperament of a person, and then to assess and to adopt the way of admonition, because this varies from person to person, from situation to situation. But here, uh, first thing we should acknowledge, we should take it for granted when we see the common people doing something which is not defined or evident, then we must adopt such a peaceful, polite way so that their sentiments are not offended. And we must take it for granted that he's doing this because of ignorance. He's not knowing the ruling of Sharia regarding that particular issue. And so in that way, he diplomatically comes up to the point one wants to clarify. So what we want to clarify is that to show him, to make him realize the evil nature of that particular action. So we can do it very diplomatically, very politely. And here, diplomatically is not in our modern political diplomacy, which is full of treachery and full of this. Diplomatically here means diligently, and we must do it out of diligence, out of intelligence, and then avoiding the evil of remaining silent when some wrong is done. Replacing it with offending a Muslim when able not to is like washing blood with urine. Do you understand this passage, this part?
Yes, Sheikh.
Can you hear me properly?
Please repeat, Sheikh, your question.
Is in the book, avoiding the evil of remaining silent when some wrong is done. Replacing it with offending a Muslim when able not to is like washing blood with urine. It's the last sentence of the point number 2.
Yeah.
So how do you understand this? Avoiding the evil of remaining silent when some wrong is done. Replacing it with offending a Muslim when able not to is like washing blood with urine.
So obviously, trying to wash blood with urine is not going to work. It's pointless. It's actually making it worse. So it's saying if you're going to speak to somebody about something they're doing wrong and then you offend them, it's a much worse thing to do.
Actually, these are two situations here mentioned. One is we see a person doing a wrong, but at the time of his commission of wrong, at the time of his practicing that particular evil, we remain silent. Due to many reasons, there can be many reasons that we could not speak against it, or we could not prohibit him from that particular commission of sin. But then there's another occasion, we find that person, that time he's not committing a sin, but still we have in the heart, we have watched him performing a sin, and that feeling of hatred is still there in our heart. Now, at that point of time when we were required to prohibit him due to so many reasons, We could not prohibit him. We could not say against anything. We could not say anything against him. But at another occasion, we find that person, and we find an opportunity to just castigate him, scold him, or dishonor and disrespect him. And we think that I am doing this because he did the wrong last time. Because of that wrong, it's Imam Ghazali says, Rahimahullah, it is just washing blood with the urine. Washing blood with the urine means that, okay, in the first instance, in the first case, he was he was required by the dean to stop him, to prohibit him, but he could not due to so many reasons. But now, when the situation is gone up, when there is no such situation, and this person is now using that hatred against this person, and he is scolding him and dishonoring him, it is immensely prohibited. Because if that particular time he could have scolded him, that was justified because he was doing something wrong. But now, since at that particular time he did not do this, but at some other occasion he grabs the opportunity, now I can dishonor him, and he's just we can say putting him to the task upon the previous sin he committed. That is totally deplorable, because this way now you are offending the sentiments of a person. Because Allah knows the best. Maybe after the commission of that sin, he repented before Allah, because we don't have any instrument with us to know the conditions of the hearts of the people. We don't know this. So what we are required to do is the all apparent form. Al-hukmu bil-zahir is a legal maxim, is a universal legal code in Islam. Al-hukmu bil-zahir. The Sharia, application of Sharia will be all upon the apparent form of particular action, because we can never know the intention of a person. So apparent form is always taken into consideration. So this particular person who saw another person committing a sin, and at that time he remained tight-lipped. Okay, we agree, we give him this benefit of doubt. Maybe there was so many things he could not do this. He was apprehensive of his own security. Agreed, given the fact, given the situation, but at another place, at another occasion, in another setting, when he faces the same person, he is no way allowed to do anything wrong against him or say anything against him. Yes, he can give a nasiha in a general sense, as Prophet Sallallahu whenever he would see a person doing wrong, or he was informed by the Sahaba about someone he did wrong, then Prophet, when he was giving the nasiha, he was not highlighting the people. He would use these expressions. Ma balun nas. What happened to the people that they are doing like this? In a general sense, so that a person's honor and dignity is protected. Prophet he would oftenly say, Ma balun nas. What happened to the people that they are doing this? Or what happened to people they are not doing this? So the Prophet would not address a specific person, except exceptionally about whom Prophet was sure enough that they won't take it otherwise. For example, there was a Sahabi, Khuraym al-Asadi, radiallahu anhu. Khuraym al-Asadi. Prophet talked about him, and Prophet, I like Khuraym, but I don't like his two habits. One is lowering his ankle, lowering his trousers below the ankle. As I said before that, majority of scholars, they say it is sunnah muakkada, recommended sunnah for the male. And some other scholars, there's a group of scholars, though it is not a preponderant opinion, but there is a group of scholars, it is wajib. It is important for the male folk to raise their trousers above the ankle. So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I like Hurayn, but I dislike his two habits. One is lowering his trousers below the ankle. Second, his hairs are shabby. He doesn't dress them up. And somebody went to Huraym radiallahu anhu, and here Prophet ﷺ was sure enough, knowing the nature of Huraym, knowing his person, and knowing that he will not take it ill, rather he will take it positively. So somebody went to Huraym radiallahu anhu and spoke to him that Prophet ﷺ was discussing about you. Prophet was discussing about you, and he informed us that he loves you. Huraym became immensely happy. that Prophet loves him. Prophet expressed his love for him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then Prophet said he disliked his two habits. Quran was eager to know what are these two habits so that he will remove this. He will give it up. He said, what are these two things which Prophet doesn't like? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Prophet said, one, you are lowering your trousers below the ankle. The moment he heard this, he raised his trousers up above the half of the shin, half of the calf. And second, your hairs are shabby. He went to the barber. At that moment of time, he just dust up his hair. So if we are sure enough about the person, we know his nature, we know that he will not take it ill, and he will take it positively. That point of time, there is no problem. If we highlight a person, if we specify his name, there's no problem. But generally, we are not supposed to just expose the names of the people. As I said before, just upholding the sanctity of the honor of the believer is uh, even more important than the upholding the sanctity of the Kaaba itself. The Kaaba is a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet said, Kaaba, you are more sacred, but not as sacred as that of the honor of the Prophet. And so this is the second point, the second degree of uh, prohibiting the evil is that the da'i must be uh, using all his potential wisdom to ensure that he is not offending the sentiments of the believers. He is not hurting the sentiments of the people, because that is another aggrieved sin, a major sin. On one side, we are doing a good deed, but at the same breath, we are doing something wrong, and which we ourselves don't know. That's how Shaitan plays with us. That's how he tricks with us. That he triggers our this fashion. If you see uh, how 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 mean that person is, that he's crossing the limits of Allah. He's trampling the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's practicing this evil. So he triggers our dispassion so that he could easily and safely take us to the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the other hand by offending the sentiments of the believers, which we are not allowed, which we are totally prohibited. So the second thing is that we should not just misappropriately use our wisdom. That when we were required to prohibit him that time, we could not take, but at another occasion, there was another session or another situation we find him, and then we use our previous event or incident to offend him. And that's what Imam Al-Ghazali said, is like washing blood with the urine. Urine is itself prohibited. No doubt, blood will be washed, but again, you have to wash the hands because the stuff you used was itself prohibited. And then the third degree is to prohibit the wrong by admonition. Advise the fear from Allah, citing the ahadith of divine punishment for it, and highlighting how early Muslims behave. These things should be done with kindness. However, it is badly serious that explaining the nature of the wrong, the person doing so may be proud of his knowledge and show off thereby. It's a very dangerous thing. This is like casting yourself into fire to save someone else. This signifies extreme ignorance, disgrace, and distraction. The criterion is to ask oneself whether one should prefer the censured person would stop at his or another's behest, or whether one would prefer to forbid him oneself. If reproving him is difficult, preferring others doing it on his behalf, we should do that seeking Allah's pleasure. Otherwise, censorship becomes a means of pride and caprice. One should rather reform himself. Dawood At-Ta'i was once asked, what about a man approaching rulers, commanding them to do good and forbid evil? He replied, I fear that he may be flogged. They said, he can withstand it. He replied, I fear that he may be killed. They said, he can endure it. He can endure that. Then he replied, I fear that he may be plagued with the insidious malady, that is self-conceit. The third degree is very important, that when we give nasihat to someone, as I said, that our approach should be based on the sympathy, kindness, and compassion, and give nasihat to other person so that they desist from this evil. So we should do this in a much diligent form as we can, and just uh, citing the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have to return back to Allah, how far we can enjoy from forbidding the wrong, from prohibitions, how far we can enjoy by going against the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can enjoy for many decades, for 70, 80, 90, or even 100 years we can enjoy. But after that, we have to leave this dunya, and this is our common day experience. We see our own ancestors, our own family members, our own close relatives, kids and kins, neighbors, friends. They all leave slowly, gradually. Everybody is leaving towards the akhirah, towards the eternal journey. So, with what face we see our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we have to return to Him. So, these are the things which we always realize, not for others, even for ourselves as well. That I have to face my Lord. The day is going to come that I am going to face my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, citing the hadith of divine punishment for that if you do this particularly, then the horrific fire of Jahannam is waiting for such criminals. Those who commit this sin, the culprits will be taken to this logical end. So before it is too late, it is still an opportunity for you to mend your ways, to reform yourself and get closer to Allah. However, uh, uh, when a person is forbidding another person from the wrong, and he's giving nasiha to him, the da'i must be sincere enough. Otherwise, if it is show off, if it is riya, though in principle he's not practicing himself that particular prohibition, but at the same breath, he is doing this, he's giving nasiha to him, actually he is showing off, he's trying to show his piety, his righteousness, his knowledge, his wisdom, and at the same time, it amounts to just despise him, to take him as lowly. Is an immensely dangerous thing. That's what Imam Al-Ghazali says, rahimahullah, this is like casting yourself into fire to save someone else. We are saying all these things to him so that he doesn't repeat it again. But on our part, we are making this as a tool in which will take a person to the hell. So sincerity and ikhlas, it's we can say the lifeline in the life of a believer. Sincerity and ikhlas. I'm doing this only for the sake of Allah. Each and every action of ours, there must be the ikhlas. Whenever shaitan just knocks at our heart, trying to just pollute our intention, dilute it, we must seek the forgiveness of Allah. Making a lot of istighfar, Ya Allah. Kindly just make me so that I do this only for your sake. Ya Allah, I'm doing this intention with me. Accept that I want your pleasure. I want you to be pleased with me. And this signifies extreme ignorance, disgrace, and destruction. The criterion is to ask oneself whether one would prefer the censured person who would stop at his or another's behest. We should also just realize that sometimes we know a person, we know his nature, and if we feel that there is someone else that he can listen more than me, then we should prefer that person to give nasiha. Because as I told you in the beginning, that our objective is not just it is we who should be giving the admonition to him. Our objective is just so that he desists from that particular sin. If we feel that it is better that other person give nasiha to him, because his nasiha will be more emphatic, more impactful upon him than me, then the demand of ikhlas and taqwa is that we should not give nasiha, rather we should approve that person, and then requesting him that to please give nasiha to so and so, because he listens to you, he has a lot of respect for you, a lot of honor for you, and then if you give nasiha to him, it's hopefully that he will desist from that particular sin. And this speaks volumes about the ikhlas and sincerity of this particular da'wah. And this way, he will get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one should rather reform himself. Okay, otherwise censorship becomes a means of pride and caprice. If we want to just express our own knowledge, wisdom, and other blah blah blah, then it is all a means of destruction for us. So ikhlas is very important while giving the nasihat to others, while teaching others, while talking to others. Ikhlas is very important. Dawood Al-Ta'i, rahimahullah, is one of the pious person of the Ummah. Even ulama say about him that لو كان في الأمم السابقة لقصه الله تعالى في القرآن, that if he were among the earlier generations or among the earlier nations before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he were the earlier communities or nations, because of his ibadah, ikhlas, and because of his piety and righteousness, لقصه الله تعالى, it is quite possible that Allah would have mentioned him in the Quran because of his piety. Dawood al-Ta'i rahimahullah, from the same tribe from which to which Hatim al-Tai belonged. Hatim al-Tai was one of the famous generous person. And somebody asked him, what about a man approaching rulers, commanding them to do good and forbid wrong, forbid evil? A person is making dawah, amr al-ma'ruf, and nahy munkar to the rulers, which is important, and this is a responsibility of the scholars. But there are many rulings about it. He said, I fear that he may be flogged, because when he say to the ruler, you are doing this wrong, you have committed the wrong. So it's very difficult that the ruler will accept this nasihah. So he said, I fear that he'll be flogged, he'll be punished. They said he can withstand it. If a person is quite capable of enduring the hardships at the face of injustice, uh, he replied, I fear that he may be killed. Then he said he can endure that. So he's not afraid of his death. He's hell bent to say what's truth. He dares to call spade a spade, and he can say that you are doing wrong, even if they take his life. He said, I fear that he may be plagued with the insidious malady that is self-conceit. So sometimes it is ujub, self-conceit, which takes a person to do, which makes a person to do something good, which is something remarkable, so that others can see it, they acknowledge it. So it is very difficult for a person to resort to the sincerity in ikhlas. But if all these stages a person still retains the ikhlas, then he's immensely pious person. And there is no doubt about it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to practice what we learn with full sincerity in ikhlas. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So the three things we discussed, then there are many other things, inshallah. We'll discuss them in our next session. So far, if there is any question with anyone, you can ask us. Any question?
Share.
Yes.
I have a question regarding in the akhirah, in the Jannah, we all feelings are like hasad and evil feelings of the heart are all removed from us, inshallah. And okay, but what happens to the feeling of, like, if you see your relative, for example, we are in the Jannah, we see our relative in the Jahannam, what happened to that feeling of being sorry for them?
Actually,
Sadness.
this feeling, this feeling sorry for others, is not an evil thing in the human nature. It's a good thing. So
Oh,
only the negative feelings will be removed, like to be envious, to be jealous, or to have
oh,
you can say the hurt of the anger, animosity, hatred. These things will be removed, but all the positive things will be there in its perfect form. So the feeling that when we feel sorry for others is a good feeling. This will be there. And even one of the narrations says that Imam Hassan al-Basri used to relate this hadith that in the Jannah, there'll be a group of people, when they see one another, they'll be very happy. And then they will talk one another, they will talk to one another that where's the person because of whom we are here? Means they are talking about their teacher who taught them the path of righteousness, who taught them the path of piety and how to get close to Allah, how to get the Jannah. They will be talking about that where is our teacher? And they'll be told that somehow he could not make it to the Jannah. And then they will go to Allah, Ya Allah. They will supplicate to Allah, Ya Allah. It is because of him. They will feel immense sorry for this. The man who was instrumental for their success, for their ultimate salvation, could not make it for himself. So they will supplicate to Allah, Ya Allah, we want him to be here. Because by the end of the day, it was his teachings that brought us to the Jannah. And Imam Hassan al-Basri then would cry a lot, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell them, okay, you go and take him from the Jannah. This feeling is good feeling, and it will be also helpful for the believers at the Jannah as well. Then he would cry a
Okay.
lot, and he would
Oh.
cry a lot. Then he would say to
Oh.
his students that if you don't find me in the Jannah, so please and please supplicate to Allah so that you can bring me to the Jannah. And Hafiz ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he would also, while reading this hadith, he would also cry a lot. And he would say to his students, if you could not find me in the Jannah, then supplicate to Allah so that I'll be also allowed to enter the Jannah. So these are the good feelings, and inshallah, they'll be there in its ultimate form.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. See you in our next session. Subhanallah.